Welcome, everybody, to the
Howdy.
MidLyfe Gaming Podcast. As always, it is this guy, Archie, and Pharaoh Steve. Today is episode 10, Steve. That is wild in my understanding of how this all is happening. But let's go over briefly what we're going to do today. We quickly talk about how the Outriders launch is gone. Battlefield 6 rumors are starting to come out. A formerly PlayStation exclusive title is now making its way to day one release on Xbox Game Pass. And then you and your team's mod got featured in PC Gamer. So we'll talk about all that today. And then, of course, we'll go over what's on our radar, things we played last week, things we're going to play the next week, and then wrap it up with some 20 questions.
Yeah. One cool thing to really mention quickly for all of our listeners this week as well is our first week that will be available on all the major podcast audio platforms. So Spotify, Apple, all those cool places. I'm sure there's some that I'm forgetting because I don't personally listen to the radio that much, but yeah, we'll be available on all those cool platforms. So you'll be able to watch us live on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Catch us the next day over on YouTube for the re-upload, which is 5 p.m. live, or goes live at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then, of course, we'll have the podcast out. Haven't solidified what day that's going to come out, but we're believing that it'll be Tuesday as well. So, yeah, multiple ways for you guys to catch us this week now.
I'm excited about all of it. All right, so if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started then, Steve.
Let's get right to the news.
Right to the news. Not on that one, we're not, though.
Oh, a little backwards.
A little backwards. There we go.
Alrighty, so Outriders. Of course, this was a very highly anticipated title. Really one of the biggest AAA titles that has come out this year. This is from People That Can Fly. So, there's some history back there with them from being a pretty decent studio. But like every online game that has been released for probably the past decade, it launched to a bunch of server problems, which obviously upset the player base. The reviews regarding just the content of the game were pretty favorable, I would say. Actually, was kind of surprised to see that, but a lot of outlets are saying that if you can actually get in and play, the content is good. The end game has a pretty satisfying loot grind. They're saying that you really do feel your powers. There's a lot of combination effects, a lot of RPG mechanics. But to get back to what we were discussing there, the server problems have definitely bogged down this game, and I think you and me have experienced this in the past. I remember, I think it was Anthem was the last big game that we both tried to play at launch. Took the day off from work and everything, and I remember you had a tweet that actually went viral. That was it was the first
first boss encounter.
Yeah, exactly. It was just trying to get into the game. So this continues to be an issue with these live service games. Outriders, though, got a little bit even harder because they do have a completely single player component. And the argument that came up was, well, why do these single player games even need to have this always online requirement? So would love to hear your thoughts on that, and how do you feel personally about that?
So I know that the server problems tend to be a little bit, I don't know, common, I guess, because we, not only on Anthem, we have seen that on Destiny both times. Even after they learned their lesson in Destiny 1, Destiny 2 still launched with network issues. Even though they weren't nearly as bad. I don't know what the business reason is behind it. I'm sure there is one. Why pay for all that network when you might not get that much network? So it's probably one of those business making decisions where they're just like, hey, the hype is real, but let's just budget it for this many concurrent users. And if we need to open the floodgates, let's open the floodgates, because you never really know how hard your network infrastructure is going to get hit until it starts getting hit. So I mean, I don't really blame them that much. I do kind of blame Outriders a little bit, though. They had a free open beta that you did not have to apply for at all. You just downloaded it from Steam and started kicking it. I didn't feel like I had any network issues whenever I had played the beta myself, but I did get kicked out over the course of probably a 3-hour game session. I got kicked out twice, which is not fun, especially when you're trying to get back in and the the getting back in mechanic isn't really that streamlined. So I ended up getting brought into the same part of the quest that I had left, but way further away from where I was when that quest step activated. So I don't know. I feel like this might just be one of those no such thing as bad publicity situations, where they just kind of like, all right, it gets us in the news. And honestly, as much as they don't like to call it a games as a service title, it is a games as a service title. And you kind of have to have that little bit of controversy up front, I feel, in order to make those initial waves, to get people in there to see it and feel it for themselves.
Yeah, there's definitely some validity to that, um, especially if you think just supply and demand. So one thing that happens when these games have these rocky online launches and people can't get on, it can go one of two ways. Either people get so frustrated that they never return back to the game, or they're like, "Man, I really got to get into that." They're sitting there hitting the F5 key, repeatedly to try to refresh to get back in the game.
Right.
One thing I wanted to point out though, a couple seconds back, I was laughing hysterically and I couldn't contain myself. So in the chat, Maddie was saying at least it wasn't made by EA, and the
That's
Squid
true.
replied that if it had been made by EA, at least we'd have $40, cosmetics that we can buy. So that really cracked me up. One thing I wanted to point out though, so we were talking, this was People Can Fly. They're the studio that did Bulletstorm, so
Bulletstorm,
that's
yeah.
why the mechanics seem to be very satisfying. But this was published by Square Enix, and if you remember, we had another online disaster from Square Enix not too long ago in the form of Marvel Avengers. So I think this is another kind of example of sometimes the studio probably overextending themselves a little bit too much. And obviously, it leads to problems. You had put in the notes when we were talking about this earlier. Is this possibly caused by the crossplay as well as the congestion from Game Pass?
Right.
And the developers actually they did transparently come out and say that some of the issues were absolutely tied to the crossplay. So that issue where you were being booted out of a game is when you enter a session that has combined
Okay.
platforms, and depending on the combination of platforms, that'll cause the user to get booted out. So that should be one of the things for them to be able to hopefully get under
Yeah,
wraps
and
pretty
I should
quickly
have
there.
noted that as well. I did have that setting turned on for cross-platform, so I didn't even think about that when I started getting kicked. I should have turned it off just to try it out.
Yeah,
Single
so
platform.
Yeah, so that's one thing, and just kind of wrap this up here. One thing I will say that's good about the developers, they have been committed to making sure that they get the servers up as quickly as possible when issues have happened. They're taking bug reports in. Some people were kind of divided over the weekend because the developers were actually working over the weekends or over the weekend to try to bring the servers back up, and some people were, "Hey, well, you guys should have been doing this ahead of time so that you didn't even have to do it." So there's always that argument. Without working for a game development studio myself, I don't know how the whole server allocation thing works out. I don't know if it's something that you can accurately, kind of project for, based off
Right.
pre-orders and all that demand to see, hey, we need X amount of servers. I don't know if it's that simple or not. I would think if it was, they could probably just make it happen with the drop of a dime, but it doesn't seem to ever happen that way. So, this is one of those things where I'm sure behind the scenes it's a lot more complicated
Oh,
than you and I
absolutely.
know. But for me, is it's not always how you launch; it's how you kind of recover from the launch.
Right.
There's games like No Man's Sky that were complete disasters at launch, and now they're some of the most lauded games in the industry
Just got a
because
new
the developers,
expansion. I'm gonna try it
yeah,
out.
So as long as the team is committed to it and they're willing to make it a better game, no problem. That's why I kept Anthem installed on my hard drive for so long. I was waiting for them to come back and fix it up, and then as soon as I got that sad news that they weren't doing anything, it got uninstalled. So
Yeah,
yeah,
same here. I uninstalled it actually probably a little bit before it for completely unrelated reasons. I think I just moved it out and was like, oh, I
yeah,
didn't even realize I had this installed. And then you kind of in those moments you realize you're like, oh, well, I guess there goes my hopes for this game as I'm uninstalling it away.
yeah.
And then just quick note about the why is there a game that's designed to be single player, at least from the core, yet it requires an online connection. And I don't think there's anything that's been going on in the background to assume that there is piracy happening on these new platforms yet. But that's a surefire way of making sure that your player base is always legitimate, at least to some certain degree. You're at least getting the usage, I guess those stats,
Yeah.
making sure that it's a legitimate copy that's being played and it's not some weird modded version of it or stolen version on it from an online crack or anything like that.
Yeah. No, you're
Just
absolutely right about that.
overabundance of caution, I would say.
Yeah, because there are definitely some people who will just play the single player component. So you're probably right about that to help prevent some of those lost sales due to that. But yeah, I don't think so. You played the demo. I haven't played it yet. I am personally probably going to wait for this one to go on sale at some point. I don't want to pay the $40, the whatever it is for it right now, $60. I don't. I just don't. I'm really not into the looter shooter genre that much anymore. But eventually, I'll get into it just to play the single player component.
Yeah, I might give it some time because it is on that Game Pass now. I'm not pleased that it's only on Xbox Game Pass. I didn't see it when I checked today on the PC version of Game Pass, but I don't know. I don't know. It just depends on where the player base is, where our core friend group is. And thanks, Maddie. That is an amazing compliment. Saying that I look like Luke from Linus Tech Tips. I'm okay with that. I can take that.
I see it now. Oh my god! Wow. Wow.
All right, so
I see it.
next story up is the Battlefield 6 rumors.
Oh, can I
Mom
just say
spaghetti. Let's
thank
go.
God, thank God, thank God, thank God. I'm just so ecstatic that the rumors are that it's a modern game and not more of this honky tonky World
Yeah.
War II, World War One, Civil War, Native American War. I don't want any of it. Like, please just bring the series back modern. I'm done with it. Like, I think that the indie studios do the historical timepiece games so much better because when the big studios do it, the AAA studios, they don't put the amount of detail into it to even warrant for them to go to that historical period.
Right.
It's the modern gameplay mechanics with a slab of that 3D, model assets put over it.
Right.
So I am pretty excited about the rumors, is that they are going to be back to the modern time, that they are going to incorporate like the destructive abilities that we had from the older series that we kind of lost as these games got to, the Xbox One, PS5, or I'm sorry, PS4 generation. So pretty excited about that. They're saying huge destructible maps with all the combat that you've come to love from the modern entries. So yeah, how do you feel about this? What's
I'm
your pulse
excited.
on?
I'm not a huge Call of Duty fan anymore. I used to be, played Black Ops 4 a lot. But it just kind of died out for me because everything, you were either shooting lasers or you were shooting, rocks out of your barrel. So I don't know. It didn't have that sense of realism in Battlefield, even from just a strictly selfish, ego based viewpoint of we have tons of hours spent on Battlefield 4 and on Battlefield Hardline amongst our friend groups. And it just always felt like a better built game. Things felt like there was more chaos in it almost. You didn't really run into too many situations where you could be walking around for several minutes and not see anyone. And the 16 to 128 player multiplayer matches, that's going to be nuts. Absolute
Yeah.
craziness is going to ensue on that.
Yeah, so for me, it's kind of strange because there's definitely, I think you and me probably were raised in the same kind of mindset where there's a time when Call of Duty was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Battlefield stepped it up and became the go-to. And then if you're still playing Call of Duty, it was like, okay, you're a Mountain Dew Dorito gamer. You just like the Twitch shooters, what we
Right.
start calling them. But Battlefield was where you went for the more adrenaline filled, the more bombastic, large scale combat. And then Battlefield, for whatever reason, like it kind of went in reverse. Battlefield started tanking and Call of Duty started becoming really Call of Duty was always more successful commercially, but there came a point where Call of Duty was even getting fans like you and me to convert over, us playing Warzone, us playing, the Modern Warfare reboot that came out. Wow, offended Funyuns. But yeah, it's strange because now I enjoy Call of Duty so much more than Battlefield games. Like I hated Battlefield 5 and I hated the Battlefield 1 or whatever it was. Like both of those they did something interesting with the campaigns that was pretty cool. Like I like the stories that they told, but the
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer action just wasn't there. Where like you said, when we used to play Heartline, Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, you always got the sense that you were moving as a team and that everything that you guys did as a team mattered. Whereas in Call of Duty, Warzone's a little different. Like you still have your team play mechanics, but the last games it went so far into the Call of Duty direction while also losing its own identity that it wasn't a fun game. Like it made it really easy to pick up Call of Duty over Battlefield. So if they return to the roots, I'll be very happy about it. The destructive ability is something that is definitely missing from Warzone. So if they do
Yes.
pick up a little bit of that.
One of
And
my
then just
oh, sorry, go ahead.
and then I was just gonna say just the actual team mechanics again, like they've always done a very good job of having classes. And Warzone, you don't really have a classes. You kind of pick up whatever you get and you're always just some Rambo character with
Right.
a different arsenal of weapons. Whereas in Battlefield, I was watching one of our clips actually. I can't remember if it was four or if it was Heartline, but there was something where one of us was flying around the chopper and we had an engineer in the back that was just keeping
Just
us like we were
repairing, just
yeah,
sparking the heck out of the
constantly.
ship.
Exactly. So I miss that kind of stuff. Like you don't get that in Warzone. So it'd be interesting. I'm really excited for this. I would love for there to be the market is big enough for multiple FPS games to
Mm-hmm.
exist. I would love for there to be like, hey, here's Call of Duty off in their corner doing their thing.
Doing their
Apex
craziness.
is over there. Here's Battlefield, doing this. Like it all caters to different players because Tarkov is a little bit too sweaty for me. I think Battlefield will come in nicely in between like Call of
Right.
Duty and Tarkov.
Something a little bit more realistic in its weapon typing and ammo drops and just range ability from each weapon being unique. Like you said, you play as a class. You have a class, you have a specific build out for your class, and you stick to your class. You have a responsibility. You have the engineers that repair, you have, sniping groups. And then I feel like one of the underappreciated aspects of it, even to people who play Battlefield, is the whole squad system that's in there. Yeah, you're a team of like 20, but inside of that team, you are so many different squads based off of whatever your grouping is.
Yeah.
And then you have like squad leader abilities. And correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Battlefield 4 that had that weird commando mode where
Yeah,
you didn't
Commander.
you didn't play commander mode where you didn't play as a person on the field at all. You were literally just looking at a map and helping your team strategize. Like that was
Yeah.
super fun to play as. It's a very different take on the whole battling type game. And
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
yeah.
Battlefield.
Battlefield, exactly. There should be those different facets of a war front that you should be able to partake in.
Yeah.
One
I just
last
miss it,
thing
man.
is
I
the
wanna go back.
destructible environments. Yeah. Oh yeah, I want to go back and I actually have video of us whenever you're in here somewhere. I can see your name tag in here. But this
Oh, wow.
this was like one of the chaotic moments where I think you are
I see.
network error caused it to fail part way. Let's just reload. There we go. Mute that. And so yeah, this is even with our friend Badfish in here as well. And then some guy's trying to
Oh, yeah,
run
this
us
is rough.
over. And it's just chaos all over the place.
Yeah.
You can see 6 helicopters up in the air. There's enemies all over the place. Someone's parachuting down across the way from us. And then this guy thinks he's going to come back for round 2 and blow, just gets done.
Oh, wow. Word.
And
Nice.
then this one kind of touches base more on the destructible environments. There was a map, if you recall, in Battlefield 4. I think it was like Hong Kong or something like that, downtown
Yeah.
China, where the core building
Oh, the tower that's still-
was destructible. And this clip right here, I couldn't find a clip of ours where we saw it being destroyed, but this whole area that's in this zone in the camera was once a 50-story tall thing that had elevators that only let you access like I think 4 or 5 different levels, but we're still talking about more square footage of gameplay than most multiplayer maps in any other fighting game. And that is just maybe a fourth of the entire play map for this. I think this one was like a 20v20 map
I remember
type.
this map very well.
Yeah.
Like, with that, it's the one that had just like you said, it was the office building. You had the top floors, and then I can't remember if there was a helipad on top or not, but there's a certain part of the map where a lot of the maps in Battlefield 4 had these big destructible moments where the course of the gameplay changed over. Like there was one where I want to say it was Hawaii where that big tropical storm came in or whatever, like
Yeah,
in the
there was
map.
some type of like
Yeah.
Galapagos Islands or something like that.
Yeah, so this is what they have to do to distinguish themselves from Call of Duty. Like Call of Duty is always going to be the more mainstream. Like I don't think they're ever going to be able to pass Call of Duty in terms of sales. I mean, never say never. It would take a few years of them eating away at that player base. But as long as they distinguish themselves, they could still be, they could still be a moneymaker for EA. I just hope,
Absolutely.
yeah. So hopefully this all goes well. Usually when we get these titles, they kind of compete with each other around, I want to say, is it November that they usually come out? I know they're
Around, yeah,
in
this one,
stores enough for Black Friday.
yeah, this
Yeah.
one, the rumor at least is that it's going to be by fall of this year.
Yeah. So
So,
so hopefully by the end of this year we have that. And I want to see if they update something with Battlefront as well. Like if they announce a Battlefront 3 or if they're just going to keep adding DLC, because Battlefront has been another, like we said at the top of the show about games that have been a miracle with the turnaround.
mhm.
Like that's been a turnaround success as well. Like just
I feel
light
like
years ahead of what it was at
I
launch.
feel like gamers gave that game way too many second chances. Way
No,
too many
Battlefront.
second chances.
No, we could have an hour long podcast just about
Just
Battlefront.
about the
Battlefront
recovery
2.
of Battlefront.
Battlefront 2 was honestly good at launch. The only issue it had was that, like, the microtransactions, they were completely avoidable, to be completely honest. The problem was that the rank at which you obtained the in-game currency was too slow,
Mhm.
but they fixed it in like a month. And then after that, people were still hung on, oh man, it costs $120 to unlock Vader, where it was never that. It was like, no, you play a week to unlock Vader, which made sense. Their whole thing was they didn't want people to rush through the content because they only
Right.
had maybe 12 characters total,
At the time,
and they
yeah.
wanted to drip feed the characters out. So they're like, all right, how do we keep people from getting burnt out quickly? We just make it take forever for them to unlock
And
people.
I think
But
in the beginning each character only had not that many skins, like maybe two
yeah,
or three different
not
variants.
even that. They
Not
probably
even
had
that.
like one or two. Yeah, because
Yeah.
even now they only have like four. But I mean, that's really just based off the movies. Like they don't really
Right.
change that often in the movies. So, but it honestly, people should pick it up. If you see it on Steam, I think it's like $20 for the
Mhm.
Celebration Edition, which contains all the DLC, all of the skins, all that stuff automatically unlocked. So it's worth it. It's a really good game. Like
And I
if
think the
you
base
like
game
the
is on Game
old,
Pass.
oh, it might be. Yeah, like if you like the old Jedi Knight series, like the combat from that, like this is a tier above that when you go into the multiplayer. Like it's actually very good and satisfying. But
What do you think Battlefield's response to this leak being spaghetti?
um I think it means that they probably wanted it to leak themselves anyway.
Right.
Like this starts the hype cycle a little early. If everything is true about this coming out in November, we have the Summer Game Fest coming in June, so they probably will soften out something there anyway, either at
Yep.
that or at what the
The
E3
virtual
thing's going to
E3
be.
thing.
Yeah, so it's not too early where it's like, man, it's a year ahead of time. Plus, everybody knows that they were having something come out this year because I believe it was last year at one of the investor calls, they said, by fiscal end of fiscal year 2021 Battlefield, so they want to do a rotating kind of release. Battlefield, Star Wars,
Right.
Battlefield, Star Wars, whatever.
It's all incremental changes. It's just different IPs to hang on to.
But I'm excited.
I am too.
I
I,
am.
I hope it comes back and then we can all just group up and cause some more chaos in Battlefield. In Italy, apparently, if the spaghetti rumors are to be believed.
Oh, that'll be fun.
All right, so
So,
next up.
oh no, go ahead.
Okay, cool. So next up is MLB The Show is coming to Xbox Game Pass on day one. This seems we've kind of touched base on it because I think it was in episode 5 or 6. It was rumored to be coming to Game Pass, but there was nothing dead set confirmed. But now this is approved by Microsoft and everybody involved that this will be a day one title on Game Pass. So do you think this kind of shows, everyone's abandoning ship, or is it just simply business trying to diversify where they previously weren't allowed to?
So I've heard rumors, and I don't know if these are confirmed yet, but what I had originally heard was that MLB actually made it a clause in their contract with Sony that for them to keep the actual license, they had to open it up to be a multi-platform. That they weren't satisfied with the sales from just the single platform, because the way licensing agreements work out, like they don't need the 20 million or 50 million that somebody's going to pay them. They want the royalties. That's
Right.
really where it is. It's another stream of revenue for them. So I can see why it started becoming an uncomfortable situation. Like, okay, you have maybe 1 million, 2 million people who are buying MLB. It's nowhere near as big as like a Madden or FIFA is. And even smaller when it's locked to one console. So I think that was really the big push for why it moved over to other platforms. And then Xbox, I feel like it's probably something that they negotiated. Like, it helps Sony out. You have this guaranteed amount of income coming in that Xbox is going to pay them to even offer it on Game Pass. You don't have to worry about people comparing the sales between, oh, it sold this much on Xbox compared to this much on Sony. So I think it's one of those things where it benefited everybody to, hey, let's do it this way. Like you're forced to even bring it to our platform. Let's kind of hide what the sales are,
Right.
underneath this Game Pass stuff. You get some guaranteed money. They get a little bit of a black eye that it's free on Game Pass and it's not free on their own hardware. Like
Yeah.
that's a bit of a black
That's
eye.
yeah.
Yeah, that one's kind of strange. But then, you have put in the notes. They kind of turned around. PlayStation did, and they offered their own kind of big punch this month of what they're bringing over to their offering. So I think, just to answer your question flatly, I think it is. I think it's all just for business. None of it is for the Phillies. None of it is to make anybody feel good. Like it's all just some complicated business decisions were made here for this to all happen. But it benefits gamers. Like I know our friend Badfish, he loves MLB, but has always been locked on Sony. He only plays on PC and Xbox, so this is good for him, and I think that'd be good for a lot of people. They haven't announced that it's coming to PC yet, though, which is still strange to me. Like even not Game Pass PC, but just on PC in general, because the baseball games themselves usually end up being a lot more simulation based.
Right.
Like a lot of people play them for the franchise modes and things like that.
Hmm.
So I would think it would sell huge on PC. So I'm kind of surprised that that is not occurring.
Yeah, I wonder because normally in the past, with Outriders specifically, anything that's been on Game Pass that is specific to console Game Pass, they've specifically stated in their public announcements that it's for Game Pass console.
Yeah.
Where here, I don't think I've seen it one way or the other. So I wonder if it is coming to Steam, maybe either
Yeah,
through Xbox Game Pass or maybe Steam directly. That might be something else
yeah,
they're working out.
it might be one of those things where it's a year out because from what I've heard from some other developers that have developed games for the Xbox, they've said that like if you're developing for Xbox, you're pretty much already developing for PC anyway, so it's
Yeah.
not that hard for them to do a port. So I think it might be one of those things. Maybe they're going to wait a year to see how much it sells, but that doesn't make sense because you wouldn't wait a year for a sports title. You want it out instantly because it loses its value in a year. So
Immediately, yeah.
so if it ain't coming out anytime soon, it's probably not coming. Period. I would guess now that I think about that, unless it's hey, we only had a year to kind of anticipate for this. We could make a quick console port, but for us to do PC, we need a little more head time. So maybe starting with 2022, it'd be on there because it is a I know they've seen that their games have been successful. Like Horizons has been a huge hit. Detroit All Become Human has been a big hit on PC. So I know they see those sales numbers. I know there's an audience there. I just maybe it was just a timing issue for this one because all this did come together pretty quickly once we started hearing the rumors.
Yeah, I mean, part of me wants to believe that it's just like the business, but I would really like to know how much the Japanese market helps Sony stay afloat in America. Um, because if this is just a sign of the times to come, then there might not be a PS6 if we start following
No.
if we start following the rabbit hole that the Dreamcast went down. Which so far the big hit from the Dreamcast was piracy, and that hasn't hit the PS5, and I don't think it's really hit the PS4 either. So maybe not,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I think we'll see an evolution of just gaming in general. Like I think the biggest thing that's probably coming and might not be in our immediate lifetime, like maybe not the next 2 or 3
right,
generations, but at some point the hardware is just going to become so obsolete. Like the need for hardware, like with the internet becoming a more widely adopted technology, even in third world countries and things like that, like there will be a time where they'll move to just like streaming access because it saves them so much money not to have to do the manufacturing and headache and all that kind of stuff. And plus, just the way consumers are, like we're already going more digital to the point that GameStop's probably going to be dead within a few years. We've debated that on a few episodes, but they're already going digital. Physical, it's just going to be like, okay, well, what's the next thing we can eliminate? You know,
Yeah,
but it'd be
you hate to see it.
yeah, but I'm fine with it. I mean, even if everyone went publishing, it actually in the long term it does benefit them more because then you have your audience is huge, you know.
Right. And
Everybody's your
you're
audience
open.
versus being
Yeah, you're
yeah,
open
it's
to a
just
lot more
the
people.
transition to getting there, which is Xbox there. That's why I always said they're ahead of the curve. Like they're everyone keeps talking about the console war, but Xbox they might lose this, but they're already winning a battle that nobody else is fighting yet. Like they've already built out this ecosystem to where, hey, we've got Game Pass that's on PC. They figured, you know, there's a way they can do it on Switch if they wanted to. They could do it on PlayStation if they wanted to through the xCloud thing. So they've got all this infrastructure already built out, just waiting for the audience to catch up and be more accepting of that kind of thing.
Yeah, and speaking of next steps, I think the next step might be covered in our radar section under the game that I have. So I'm pretty excited about that too.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions about MLB or any other thoughts about that?
I really don't. I just hope that it's like a good sign. Like I want it to do well, even though I don't play those like sports titles. Oop, got a little ahead of myself there.
No
Even though I
worries.
don't play those sports titles very often, um, they're just not for me. I would rather just watch sports. I don't feel like participating in them. Um, but I hope it sets a good groundwork so that Sony knows, hey, and not Sony directly, but you know all these partners that work with Sony at least uh, know that, hey, you know, this is a good partnership. We all came out on top of it. We opened the player base. We did it for the gamers, and let's see what the next step is. And I think this might be the first step in a very long chain of events that'll help lead to a better gaming environment.
With you 100%, brother.
All right, let's move along to the next item, which is
Yeah.
very closely related to you.
Yeah. So, last story for the news today. So we have my team, High Performance Group. We actually got a nice write up over a couple different outlets over the weekend. So we got one in PC Gamer, we got another one in Game Rant, and then another in a German print media online website. Just very happy to see us get recognition a little bit outside of just the immediate flight simulator community. Like, I think we've already reached our maximum saturation there. Like, everyone who plays the game probably knows about us at this point. When I go through Facebook, I still see a couple comments here and there of people like, hey, where did I get this? But for the most part, people know we're out, they know where to get us from. But having us appear in like a website like PC Gamer, there's a lot of people who probably, you know, through Game Pass, Flight Simulator is a game
Mm-hmm.
offered through Game Pass, they probably have lapsed. They either haven't played it since it came out at launch, or maybe they played it for a little bit and, you know, they're just not into that community as hardcore as everyone else. So us being a PC gamer is a huge help. I think that that gives us probably that last bit of exposure that we need. The only other market that I could think of is IGN at this point. That is a little bigger than PC gamer when it comes to our potential audience here. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about that.
I
Not
mean,
too much.
I'm blown away at the level of quality of work that your team has done. It's amazing. Have y'all decided on, at least publicly decided on the next one?
Nope. Nope. Seeing somebody asked that, Maddie asked that in chat as well. What are you guys doing next? We have not announced what we're going to do next. It's kind of a tricky situation. Our focus right now really is on getting this thing. Like, it works perfectly fine. Obviously, Maddie, you've flown it. We've got 3,500 people in our Discord who've flown it, so it works. It's just that there's a certain level of quality that we want to have to put like a
Mm-hmm.
ribbon on it. Because right now, we pretty much consider everybody who's flying it to be a beta tester or alpha tester. You know, you're giving us feedback, we're tweaking it, making those changes, putting out a new build, you know, every day. So there's a certain level we want it to be at when we do 1.0. We put a nice little ribbon on it. We think that we don't have to deal with too many other complaints from the community. The community be like, hey, this is good. You're free to move on to your next thing. Because there are, you know, I'm very mindful of what I've seen other developers and studios do, which is don't announce something new while your current thing is not up to
Still
par,
growing.
Yeah,
Well,
so
also still growing. Like, downloads are still skyrocketing up there for it.
yeah, so we've got some things that we want to fix up. Like Maddie, he just dropped a couple bugs in chat there. Thank you for the live bug report. But yeah, so there's things like that we completely tighten up before we move on to our next thing. But we know people will be happy with what we put out.
Yep, it's gonna be great. Y'all should do the that they call it a helicopter, but honestly it's a drone. But the helicopter on Mars, the first helicopter on Mars.
Oh yeah,
I forget what that one's
posted,
called, but that'd be interesting.
yeah, actually, I put that article in our Discord
Mm-hmm.
a couple days ago. Yeah, because I found that and thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah,
Good
yeah,
stuff.
that's all on the heli stuff. We'll keep doing that. Of course, if you guys want to keep in touch with us regarding that, in Archie's Twitch channel here, there's a link to our Discord channel that we share for all of the stuff related to my YouTube channel and everything related to MidLyfe Gaming and
Mm-hmm.
everything related to Archie's channel. So everything's in one easy to find place for you. We've got everything broken up pretty nicely so you can jump into whatever community that you want to. Destiny, Elite Dangerous, all that good stuff we've got on there. Valheim. Yeah, it's a rocking place. Come on by.
Great place. You should definitely join.
Come
So
on
that's
by.
all we had for the news, Steve. You ready to move on to what's on our radar?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to go first with It
Sure.
Takes Two?
So It Takes Two is a title by Hazelight and published by Electronic Arts. It is a couch co-op title. It's also online co-op, but while it does look cute and it looks like a fun time, I definitely want to play this with my wife and kind of have some couch co-op time with it. One of the unique things that I saw was that it includes a friend pass. So for $40, you can buy the game, and with it, you get a friend pass. A thing that your friend doesn't have to buy the game. They can just download, at least on Steam right here, they can just download the friend pass version, and then you two join together. And as long as one of you has paid for the game, then your friend will be able to play with you. And I think that's a pretty great step, because not that long ago, talking about how if I buy it on one console, why don't I own it on the other one? And now Microsoft is leading that edge of, oh cool, you bought it on Xbox, you own it on PC, sure. And now obviously it's for their own titles, like Gears is the last big one. The last Gears title was one of those types of games. And I don't know. I feel like it's definitely something that needs to be talked about a little bit more in the industry, because I had never even understood that was part of the thing.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. EA has done this a couple of times. One thing I want to say real quick, they're too far. Kudos to them for kind of following through with their commitment to. They don't do a ton of them each year, but they are still kind of consistently giving money to indie studios to
Mm-hmm.
develop little things like this. EA publishes, they let the little studio go off and do whatever they want without too much interference, and we get
Absolutely.
these cool little experiments like this. Another game that they actually had with a similar business model of having that game passed was A Way Out. If you remember from the Video Game Awards a few years ago, that guy who was kind of going crazy on
Right. Yeah, I
stage,
know that game.
he's the developer of that. Yeah, so that was another kind of couch co-op game where they do something very similar to this. You've got this split screen gameplay. You both are doing different things to get through levels
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So I love it. It's like you said, these games are great for playing with a spouse, playing with a sibling, playing with a friend. And I love the business model of giving a friend pass. Like that is really what the industry should go closer towards with stuff like this.
Yeah, and so to answer a joke veiled as a question, Squid asked, which of your closest friends are you going to give it to, Archie? Well, that's the good part, is any of your friends can download the Friends Pass as long as you bought the game. And that's it.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep. So as
So
long as you
18
bought
of
the
your
game,
different friends could play this.
assuming that you are playing with them and you bought it.
Yeah, so that's a
That's
very
my
good marketing
understanding, at
ploy,
least.
because what that would work as, like, you think, man, that seems like they're going to miss out on a ton. But probably what happens is Archie plays with somebody, Archie plays with me. I say, oh, wow, that was a cool experience. I'm going to get somebody else to I'm gonna buy it so I can give the friend pass and just start spreading that way. So that's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah, it's these little things happen every once in a while where you're like, oh, okay, I wonder how that's going to pan out in a while. And then it becomes like the previous story we talked about. It becomes a stepping stone towards the next evolution in the gaming sphere, where things like, multiplayer at one point back in the early days was viewed as like, oh, that's too complicated. Let's do it one-on-one. Even though the first, video game was an early rendition of what we know as Pong now. It's still one of those concepts where like, oh, okay, cool. So hopefully in a couple of years time, we'll see more multiplayer titles come out where it's like, cool, I want to play this with a friend, but I don't want to, we're far away. So why do I have to pay twice if we're going to be playing the same game? And it answers those questions without there being really any problem with it. Because chances are they may pick up the title themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly how this should work. So, hey, kudos to them. Good job, EA.
Good job. All right, let's move on to yours, Steve. Hang on. It decided to go away for a second.
No worries.
There we go. State of Decay 2, Juggernaut Edition.
Yeah, so mine is actually an oldie, and it's one I already played, but it came back on my radar recently. So I played this at release, came out March of last year, or actually, I feel like it came out earlier than even. It definitely came out before March. I think it came out the year prior, and this Juggernaut Edition came out last year. But anywho, no, it's not a raccoon game. So, but anywho, this so I don't know if you ever played the original State of Decay, but came out by a little indie developer. It was when there was a craze around the zombie genre, which there still kind of is, but it's nowhere near like it was maybe a half decade ago. And the way that the original game worked was you have the city, town, whatever you want to call it, just this massive area. You start as a survivor, and your objective is to outlast the certain amount of days until reinforcements come and rescue you from the city. During that time period, you're meeting up with other survivors. Everyone in the game is permadeath, so if they die, they die. So as you're building these relationships with people, and they have real dialogue between the characters, any house that you can find can be turned into a permanent installation. Is really like they should have got the Walking Dead license. It would have been a perfect Walking Dead
Oh,
game. Like
yeah.
is really the way it should have been. But anyway, they probably help them that they have no license. That way they can be free to do the original things they want to. But the first game was phenomenal. Absolutely perfect. The only thing that people wanted from it was a little bit more level of polish, being that it came from an indie studio. Microsoft acquired that studio and they put out State of Decay 2, came out on Game Pass. It was really accessible to everyone, but they really changed up a ton of things. So, like, a lot of the charm from the original game got taken out. Like, it definitely got an upgrade in terms of visuals and polish and things like that, but they took away a lot of the charm of, like, the unique mechanics that made it a unique game versus being just another kind of cookie cutter RPG simulator type game. At some point, the I remember the reception was terrible for the game. It was definitely not received well
Oh,
on
yeah.
Steam. And then when they came out with the Juggernaut Edition, they went and they fixed a lot of the complaints that players had originally. So I put it back on my radar because I want to go back and try it now. You can see that the reviews have been changed to mostly positive, overwhelmingly positive, whatever the case is there on Steam.
Right.
What I saw from the review that I watched of this edition was it got a big visual upgrade. They upgraded a lot of the mechanics to make it more similar to the first game. They added a new city. They just did a ton more to make it more of a living environment again, like the first game was. So when you play now, you really do feel like, hey, I'm back in this area. I have to do my best to survive over, X amount of time period. So a little steep in price as you scroll down there, $30.
Yeah.
But I remember, I don't know if I even have it on my Steam profile or not. I feel like it was a Microsoft game even then too, but I put a ton of hours into the original, so I'm pretty excited to see this one through.
Yeah, I don't know. $30 for a co-op survival, even though, I mean, I guess technically it is a survival, but it really has a lot of those Left 4 Dead vibes in it.
Yeah.
So if it's polished as much as the trailers are to believed, then I don't know. I feel like $30 is probably a solid price for it, especially given that it includes all the DLCs and everything like that.
Yeah.
I would probably give it a try for sure.
So Archie, can you scroll down? Is this one co-op? I actually don't
Yes,
remember.
online co-op. I don't
Yeah,
see anything saying that it is couch co-op, but
cool.
it is
So this one is
cross-platform.
also they have announced the sequel for this one as well, so I'm sure it'll probably get a sale at some point. State of Decay 3 is going to come out,
Hmm.
and the developers always said that their next envision for this was for it to be like a MMO type game where you travel from city to city and do things like that. So it'll be good to see what they do, but this one it'll be fun. I'll check out and see if it is on Game Pass still. I believe it should be, Archie. If it is, we should try it out
Oh, absolutely.
once or twice with Tom. It's kind of cool, you know, like you have this area and kind of like how we do with Valheim, very similar to that. Like, oh, okay, hey, we got to go out, resources from this area. Let's put together a hunting party. Let's put together, a resource party. Let's make our base over here. The one thing I did like about this though is you have the ability to like strengthen your reinforcements. You can now the walls have barbed wire on them. Now they've got, we have a gunner that looks out for everything. So it's pretty cool and immersive in the way it handles that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely want to play this with y'all, because if it's on Game Pass, then absolutely, I'm gonna definitely give it a try. Um, and
Oh,
it
100%.
has a lot of the stuff that I like in games, so
Yeah.
I don't see a reason why I wouldn't like it at all, which
So
is good. I don't think that's the
yeah.
best description for a game. I don't see anything that I hate about it, but
Yeah. Nothing I hate. Nothing I hate.
All
But
right.
yeah, so that's what's on our radar for this week. Let's talk about what we played last week. You get around to any gaming last week?
I did not. So congrats to my brother. He got married on this past Friday, and I was the best man. So we spent a lot of time at the end of the
Woo
week
woo.
doing that, and I spent a lot of time leading up to it, making sure they didn't have anything school related that was going to interfere with it, so that I could just be there. I will say, and I have not told you this yet, but so at the venue, the floors are slatted. They're like slats. There's gaps in
Yeah.
between them. Because I was the best man, I was trusted with the rings after my nephew handed them to me. My now sister-in-law's ring in the middle of the ceremony fell out of my hand and slipped right through that crack. And
Oh.
luckily, I mean, I wish I had the picture up on the stream. I'd show you my face. It was mortifying. It was probably the most embarrassed and upset with myself that I've ever been in my life.
Oh my god.
And like even now, like it's still like, man, god dang, why? But it
Jesus.
all went over well. No one, blew up about it. My sister-in-law now, she pulled me aside like a little bit later and was like, don't worry, it's fine. We'll get it out. Because it was recoverable, but like you couldn't
Yeah.
recover that day. Someone from the building maintenance crew had to come out the next day to come and pull it out.
Jesus.
So it was a whole thing.
Well, I'm glad you survived that.
Yeah, I'm glad I've survived it too. But
Yeah, because
what happened with you last week?
real quick before jumping that, someone from chat, what free games would we recommend? Looking for free new games to play. I know Maddie's a PC gamer here,
Mm-hmm.
so I would say Maddie, check out Steam. Steam in the store section, they have a free to play list which shows like the most popular games. Check that out. Off the top of my head, man, there isn't really anything that I could recommend off the top of my head, to be completely honest. I guess Warzone is always a good one. Play with friends. Uh, man, I
Free to
don't really
play.
like
There it is.
Fortnite. Apex is okay. Yeah, let's look at the list. We got time. We're actually running pretty good on our show today.
We are, yeah.
What
So
we got
there's
there?
Counter-Strike, Global Offensive, an oldie but a goodie. It's still good,
Yeah.
especially if you are rocking a high frame per second monitor. Absolutely, and it's
Yeah,
not
sounds
really
good.
that demanding graphically. So, I mean, it's always a good go-to. There's of course Team Fortress 2. I'm not a fan of it at all, but there a lot of people do like it. Totally accurate Battlegrounds. This
It's a
looks
little goofy game.
this looks wild. I've never played
Yeah.
this one. 60 hertz monitor. So yeah, I mean you should be fine with a 60
Yeah.
hertz monitor. I know that I will say people that are still playing CS:GO tend to be of the try hard variety right now. It does see little resurgences in new players every once in a while, but just be prepared.
Yeah. Didn't you know what I would honestly say, Maddie? Probably the best recommendation we can make is going to be Destiny, right? Destiny's
Yeah.
got that free to play tier where you can get in. There's probably a good, I would say maybe like 20 to 50 hours of gameplay there, and then
Oh,
you can
yeah.
decide if you actually want to buy the expansions. Since every time you play, yeah, especially if you're tired of hackers, Destiny's the place you can go where you won't find any. Like I personally, I'm sure there's probably some hackers in the Crucible, but I completely ignore the multiplayer competitive stuff. I only play the
Hmm.
PvE content. So I would definitely say Destiny might be the probably the best thing for you to try out.
Really, the only place in Destiny that I've personally experienced, hackers or network switchers or anything like that is in Trials of Osiris, which there's such a small, tiny portion of content inside of that it doesn't affect. If you still like to play PvP, hit the normal Crucible and you'll be fine. Iron Banner shows up every once in a while where you get to really, stretch your legs out there, because at this point a lot of people are not afraid, but like really not interested anymore in Trials of Osiris.
Yeah.
So, but the normal PvP is still great.
Yeah, Destiny would definitely be what I would my recommendation would be. I would say it's probably the most polished free to play game you can get into right now. Warframe is up on the screen.
Warframe, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people like it. I just personally couldn't get over the aesthetic of it, but I've heard it is probably one of the most complicated. I won't say complicated because that has a negative connotation, but it's one of the most complex RPGs out there in terms of like the systems they have. They've got this materia system where you're really like you're building your mechs up from the stuff that you're collecting and all
Mm-hmm.
that. So I've heard a lot of cool things, but it's just probably way too complex for me. My style of gaming has really changed. I'm not like, I go back and forth between liking those games that I put 2,000 hours into and
Mm-hmm.
liking those quick one and done, like 10-hour, 20-hour experiences. But if I'm gonna, if I can see that the intent of a game is to be one of those live service, stick with it forever games, and it's just not for me, I won't even play it. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, just not gonna happen.
Just
Not
don't
worth
even
the time.
invest your time into it.
Yeah, exactly. But so you asked me what I had played last week. So for me, I've been playing a lot of Elite Dangerous. I got back into that. They had a new update that came out. So the Odyssey update, well, I shouldn't say it came out, but the alpha has come out. So if you pre-order the Odyssey expansion, you can now get into the alpha. And I wasn't really happy with it at first. The difficulty curve was very tough, which I wasn't
Oh,
expecting.
okay.
Um, yeah, it's their first, so it's the first time they've ever had any on foot combat or anything like that going on. And a lot of the objectives are, the way the gameplay loop is you have your spaceship, obviously. You go to a space station. When you're at the space station, there's NPCs that are hanging around like the pilot's lounge. They're hanging around the different stores and things like that. It's very immersive in that regard, kind of like Deep Space Nine in a lot of ways. But you talk to these different NPCs and they give you the different missions and they say, hey, go out to this outpost. And the mission from there could be combat, it could be salvage, it could be something like support, like, hey, go turn the power back on at this place. It could be
Right.
like this mission that we're seeing on screen right now, which is a raid. So it's a combat mission, go and kill everyone there. But there's a lot of different things you do when you get to these different bases. But one of them, or one of the things that you're always running into, is that the bases have guards. So if you're doing something that is criminal or that they don't want you doing, you're trying to sneak into an area that you shouldn't be in. Sometimes you're because there's different factions in Elite. Sometimes you might be friendly with a faction, so they
Right.
don't start shooting at you immediately when you arrive. They say, "Oh yeah, you've got level 2 clearance to get through all these places," but you have an objective that you might need to get something that's behind a level 3 clearance door,
Right.
and that's going to present a problem. And the problem is that these guys are fucking Terminators. So you'll go into a place and it'd be like, oh, one of the things I absolutely love is they have these terminals. And when you're there, you can log in. It tells you what all the buildings are there. Like just
Mm-hmm.
like if you're logged into a command center anywhere, like, oh, here's all the buildings. Here's the staff list. So you can look at the staff list and be like, oh, okay, there's only level 2 scientists here. There's one security guard, whatever. And it kind of helps you plan out how you're going to attack the mission. Well, why is it that when I get there, there's a level 1 scientist with nothing but a pistol, and I die instantly when I get there because he's got Terminator skills? So that was frustrating at first.
Right.
I had to change my gameplay style up. So now what I do is I play very covertly. I play smart. I play smart. One of the things I noticed, the developers came out and said, "Hey, we know that the AI is a little too efficient right now. We are going to tune that." So cool.
I
They're
love
going to
that
tune that.
wording. It's a little too efficient.
Yeah, they're a little too efficient, so they're going to tune that. They also relayed like, "Hey, right now, even the suits that we give you are not intended for combat. Use them to their special abilities." So, for instance, one of the suits that you have, it's the Maverick suit. and it comes with a tool that can cut through like circuit boards and stuff, and then you can
Okay.
overload those. You can overload doors, whereas if you want to get through places, usually you have to do this illegal action of scanning somebody, killing them, stealing their ID
Oh,
card, something
gotcha.
like that. But now you've got this covert way to do it. So what I do now is I fly in, hey, friendly, happy go lucky with everybody, don't mind me. I find the command center, I break in there, do
Hmm.
that covertly, and then I disable like all the security alarms, disable anything that requires like a scan. So what I really love about this game is that with this new update, they have really allowed the player to kind of. It's one of the things I always talk to you guys about Metal Gear Solid 5 and how they have that big open world that you
Right.
can do the missions how you want. They do the same thing here. Like I obviously, you can go in guns blazing, but that's not going to be the best thing. Try to find a different way to do it. So for that, I'm really in love with the gameplay so far. They're doing their release at kind of a staggered phase type thing, so they're going to add the new features every couple of weeks or so throughout this. They said it'll probably be 2 to 3 months before the update is released fully
Hmm.
public. But for now, we get the beta test, which is cool because I know as myself as a developer, when you beta test, you can take feedback right there and you can tune things before it hits the mass market. And hopefully by the
Before it
time it
becomes
hits
a
the mass
big
market,
problem.
yeah, if you build stuff with people's feedback in mind every step of the way, then it should be okay by the time it's released. But I mean, as you can see from the gameplay, it is they've done a great job with even what they have now. Like even this, how he's scanning the area before he
Oh,
drops in to kind of
yeah.
see what he's doing. Like all this stuff is just very cool. They've made it to where I hate when a lot of students say, "Oh, you feel like Spider-Man as you're swinging through whatever, or you feel like Batman." Like you really do feel like like you're a person living in this world now, because you got your ship, you got to run up to it. That's probably my favorite thing to do. So every now and then I'll do a mission and it doesn't quite turn out the way that it should. At the end, the guards still catch me or something like that. And then you have your little wrist thing. So you can call your ship in, that is telling you, here's how far away it is. You've got your timer for all that. So
Right.
literally you're running to your ship while people are shooting at you.
Just
You haul
sprinting.
ass to it. Yeah, you board and then you get away right before it blows up. I've had instances where they've shot me out the air too, which is, even though it sucks that it happened, it's still
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
cool. It's like, oh, you know what? You really do have to think about stuff because one of the things in the base, there's a security building, and you can actually disable all of the anti-ship turrets, all the anti-ship missiles, the point defenses, and all that. So they really make it to you can play how you want. Um, Right now, because of the phase that they're in, they only have the AI ship that could taxi you
Okay.
from a mission back to a station. But if it was you and me playing, for instance, maybe I don't have to go through that whole thing of disabling all the turrets and all that because you're such a good pilot that you'll just
I'm
swoop
just
in.
gonna swoop
I'll
in and
jump
take
in
them
quick.
out.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for it to get to the fullness of everything.
Yeah, I definitely want to play
Pew.
this one. I texted you earlier about this too. I
Yeah,
picked it up the base game from Steam because it went on
good.
sale all the way down to, it was like 750 or something, which
It's a
is
good
a
price.
ridiculous price to not give it a try.
Woo! We got some. That is a great price. At least I probably have 1,000+ hours in it already. It's a great game. I'm catching up on some comments from chat here really quick. So Maddie
Absolutely.
said he found a game called Pew Do Redemption. It looks weird. Yeah, it sounds like it is probably a ripoff or a knockoff of Red Dead Redemption, which is actually a really good game. It sucks that you're asking us the question about a free game to play now because Red Dead Online wasn't free, but it was $5 for probably like 1 or 2 months, and that's another good game where you can probably get a couple few hundred hours out of it. Really love that. Haven't played as much recently, but very immersive. Tom probably caught our last episode. He said that he finally finished Injustice 2 last night, and that was a fantastic game. I hope you enjoyed it. Archie, did you end up finishing
I have
on
not
your
yet.
playthrough?
I did continue, but I have not finished it yet. I feel like I'm pretty close to the end.
Gotcha. So we'll have to catch up with whenever you play. But hey, we've covered the news. We've covered everything that we played last week. What's on our radar? Talk about what we're going to be playing. Well, actually, we didn't. So what are we playing next week?
Next week, I plan on playing some Control. I got the key you sent me for that. I'm gonna go ahead and give that some time, and
Nice.
it's critically acclaimed, so it definitely deserves time to get played. Play some of that, and then, like I mentioned a couple minutes ago, I did pick up Elite Dangerous for the first time. I am no stranger to flight sims, but I have never played this one. So,
Good.
and I mean, how does the
Ping me.
community call this one? Is it a sim or do they call it a game?
I think we call this one a game because it actually funny now that I played Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like
Mm-hmm.
I used to think that was immersive, but so much more to control inside of Flight Simulator. So it's definitely a game.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, they have some simulation elements, like depending on what role you want to take. I won't say so much the combat stuff because that's just combat, but like the trading and the exploration stuff, like that can get really deep. Like there's a guy in our Discord server today. He's new to the game, and I gave him a list of all the different third party like add-on links and all that,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wow, I didn't realize, but there's like 50 different sites because it's just that complex of how deep you can get in it. You can play the game without ever leaving the screen, but you definitely get the most out of it if you kind of min max
Utilize
based off of
other
the
utilities and
yeah
whatnot.
yeah. Because
Makes
remember,
sense to
man,
me.
this is Elite is mapped 1-to-1 with the Milky Way galaxy to the best of their ability, so you've got that much area to kind of go off and do things. So you definitely need some assistance on that end. Control though, I want to circle back to that really quick. So you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna play that. What did you think of the trailer I sent you? Had you really looked into Control a lot before then, or?
I had seen it a little bit, but I remember whenever it first started getting pretty big on consoles, I was playing something else, and I don't even remember what it was, but it was taking up a good chunk of my time at that point.
Gotcha. Good. Well, I hope you enjoy it. I think it, like, even though it's critically acclaimed, I still don't feel like it hit the mass audience that it needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad to see that it's on. I think it's PlayStation now.
Yep.
PlayStation now, but they
No,
have
no,
it on
no.
PlayStation Now currently, so you can get it from there. And then PC, it was exclusive to the Epic Game Store for a bit, so I think that hurt it. But now that it's on Steam, I was able to get you a key. Hopefully, a lot more people pick it
I
up
think maybe
and
that's
give that
what
a
it
go try.
was, is because in the last like year or so, I've really kind of been hesitant to buy and pick up console titles unless it's something exclusive for it, and I
Yeah,
know it's going to stay a console exclusive. And then being on Epic Games, I bought Borderlands 3 on that, but instantly regretted it because, the online community was almost nothing. Like a lot of people
yeah,
bought it and played it, but the online matchmaking and different group things just didn't feel the same as Borderlands 2 and pre-sequel did with Steam. So,
yeah. Probably missing a big chunk of the audience
yeah,
there.
very much.
Because I definitely I still haven't picked up Borderlands 3, to be honest, and I probably won't now because it's like, I've missed the wave. I can
Yeah.
agree. I've played Borderlands 3 set Maddie in chat, but alrighty. So you talked about that for this week. I'm excited to hear you talk about Control. Hopefully on the next episode.
Yep, I will.
Again, for me, I'm just going to be playing more Elite. Honestly, I'm kind of stuck in this gameplay loop now, even though they're in reset progress before it comes out officially. I'm stuck. I feel like it's always good to get in and learn all the tricks while you can debate in the alpha stuff. That way, once it hits day one, you're already kind of acclimated with everything, and I don't have to spend half my day on Discord asking people questions.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, excited for that. But let's move on over to video game 20 questions. So,
20
as always,
questions.
fans of the show, you guys can join us on Discord. You can submit questions, and if you have any suggestions for for games that we should use in video game 20 questions, you could do that over there. Me and Archie swap off each week.
Mm-hmm.
We pick a game and see if we can stop the host, but we do try to help the host as well. We're nice guys here.
Yeah.
So far, Archie, you have the score. I lost my tab here.
I
How's it going?
have 1 of 4, and you are 0 for 3, I think.
Yep. So this should be hopefully this will be the week that I can finally get one.
Hope so.
Last week's game was given by me, so I was the host last week. The game was Star Wars Shadows of the Empire, and unfortunately Archie wasn't able to guess. Super
I was
close though.
so close.
So close. You knew the game, but
I
I
felt
forgot
it.
what'd you call it? You said it was like Dark Forces or something like
Dark
that.
Forces, yeah.
You remembered he was a mercenary and all that, just couldn't remember the title. Yeah, so let's I'm ready when you are, buddy.
All right. So, this parody-based action-adventure game was built by a once Canadian developer that was caught up in the 2008 merger/formation of the now parent company, Activision Blizzard. When released, it was received mostly positively, with an emphasis on its interpretation of the game's source material, while receiving a Metacritic rating that averaged a score of 80 across all versions. The average was 80 when you summed up all the versions. While most of the criticism was based around bugs and glitches with the game, It went on to sell over 3 million copies worldwide. So whenever you're ready, let's start
Cool. I
asking
like this
questions.
new Jeopardy style as well. Okay. Is this game exclusive to any platform?
No.
Okay. This is not a question. This is asking for
a friend
or something. No, something you said up front. You said that it was a parody action game.
This parody-based action-adventure game.
Okay. Canadian developers. That doesn't help me at all. Has this been released on Xbox One?
Not specifically for Xbox One.
Has it been released for Xbox One at all?
I'm pretty sure you could find a way to play it on Xbox One easily by putting the disc inside of an Xbox One.
Backwards compatibility. Okay.
Is
this a licensed game?
Yes.
Is it a Simpsons game?
Yes, it is actually. That should narrow it down significantly.
Is this a... Has this game had a lot of comparisons to Grand Theft Auto?
Yep, it certainly has.
Is the word hit in the title?
It sure is.
Got it. Is this game Simpsons Hit and Run?
It certainly is. Look at that. What? Pinball. No, not
Finally.
pinball.
Finally, I got one. Jesus. Dope.
Thomas.
That was a good one.
As soon as you said, I wasn't sure that you were going to pick Simpsons right off the bat. I thought you were going to start the IP list at like something more recent. But you went right to Simpsons.
The parody helped. I knew it wasn't South Park because of the, I was like, I know every South Park game. But when you said Simpsons, and then you gave the hint when you said that it wasn't on Xbox One, so I'm thinking backwards compatibility. Okay, Xbox 360 era type thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's right there. Good. You said Canadian studio. Who was that developed by?
So it was developed by Radical Entertainment and published by Vivendi Games, which Vivendi owned Radical as like their dev wing. But Vivendi was swept up in the Activision Blizzard merger.
Here comes Mr. BP hating as usual. A hater. Yeah, in case you guys were listening from the audio, said in the opening of the show, we're live on Twitch every Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern, so you can always join us here and join in on the conversation live with the buds.
Yep, go ahead and give us a follow.
Yeah, well, hey, that is everything that we had for the podcast today. Definitely another fun episode being here with you. Looking forward to talking about Control next week. Hopefully you have some time to get into Elite Dangerous as well.
Thank you, Backhand, for shooting us a follow. I appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. This is episode 10 of the MidLyfe Gaming Podcast, so we'll be on... Hey, Maddie, follow
and
too.
Maddie. Thanks, Maddie.
Look at that. Definitely appreciate the support. As I was just saying there, this is episode 10 of the podcast. We definitely want to keep it going. So for us to keep it going, we got to keep it growing. So tell a friend, share our link, do whatever you can. Help us out.
Yep. Like, subscribe. We're on Twitter. Our handles are, right here. Just whatever you can do to help, anything helps. And we appreciate it. This is episode 10. If you didn't catch it earlier, we will be also releasing information about the audio only podcasts. So that makes it a little bit easier for certain viewers that don't want to load up YouTube every time they watch, or load up Twitch clips, which is always a struggle for me personally.
Good stuff. Well, it's been great. Appreciate you guys.
Take care. Thank you so much, guys. See you next week.